San Diego's new city council gets to work, the new leadership and priorities as several new council members are sworn in. And faith groups call attention to those trying to seek asylum in the U.S., how their demonstration at the border led to arrest.
The key issue of why we're striking, contrary to what Kaiser would have you believe, it is not about pay. It really is about access to mental health care.
Local mental health care workers go on strike. Why they say they need more help to do their jobs.
You need a place to live. Like, how do you live on Mars? Do you live in your spaceship? Do you live in a habitat?
Getting to Mars is one challenge, living there is another. How NASA and private companies will need to create new technologies to make it happen. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. New members and a new leader for the San Diego City Council. It was a busy day today at City Hall. 4 members were sworn in after winning their districts last month. Jennifer Campbell, Monica Montgomery, and Vivian Moreno were serving for the first time. Chris Cate was the only council member who was re-elected. And as KPBS reporter Andrew Bowen tells us, a new City Council president was chosen this afternoon.
Well, nearly every member of the public who spoke to the council today said that Georgette Gomez should be the next council president. Many of them praised her advocacy for the environment and also for supporting underserved communities. Gomez is a progressive Democrat, but she also won the vote of confidence from the council's 3 remaining Republicans. They all said that Gomez has always been honest and upfront with them, even when they disagree on policy matters. The council does have 6 Democrats now, and that's enough votes to override any vetoes from Republican Mayor Kevin Faulconer. I asked Gomez after the meeting today whether that's something that she's ready to do.
I'm definitely ready to bring my council colleagues together to ensure that we're creating a strong agenda. I'm hopeful that I'm going to be able to get a strong commitment with the mayor to really make it happen. I'm hoping that we don't have to push as hard because it is the right thing for San Diegans, but if need be, I am ready. I want to make sure that we are putting the resources that we have within our disposal in our communities that have been neglected.
Now, the council will reconvene tomorrow, and one of the items on the agenda is a report that projects yet another budget deficit for the coming year. One thing that Gomez and her council colleagues and the mayor will have to do is figure out how to cut another $73 million from the city's budget. Reporting from City Hall, Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
This morning, a physician, a lawyer, and a policy advisor stepped into their new roles, and a couple of former city council members had some parting words. Here's some of today's ceremonies at City Hall.
So I just want to thank all of you for this incredible journey. I want to thank you for your love, your friendship, and your prayers. Thank you all.
Being on City Council is very similar to being a family doctor, in that each profession is focused on preventing and solving problems. In both, we listen to your problem, we learn the history of it, we make a diagnosis, and we provide a pathway to a cure. And that is how I will serve as District 2's representative in City Hall.
But what happens after we win? We can remember the victory, we can celebrate it, but we can't stay there. It is time to move forward. I ran for this seat because as a 30-year resident of District 4, I saw that we were lacking so much. I saw buildings going up, but we were not the builders. I experienced a lack of respect and history, a lack of respect for our community and our history. And I saw that we had lost our servants' heart for each other. Now we have a chance to shift the paradigm, and we have to work together to get it done.
We don't do this job for personal gain. We don't do this job to serve special interest. We don't do this job to blindly vote down party lines. We are public servants. For far too long, City Hall looked to our communities to bear the burden of responsibility when it comes to taking on unpopular projects or inequitable budget cuts. No more. When City Hall needs to find money for something they haven't budgeted for, they have raided the grants funding that is specifically meant to improve our communities in District 4, in District 8, and District 9. No more.
May God continue to bless each and every one of you and our wonderful city. Take joy in knowing that this boy from the barrio leaves with his head held high, a successful councilman, and you were all part of this story. Thank you very much.
Starting this week, there will be fewer U.S. troops at the southern border. Active duty military members have mostly been assigned to install additional barriers such as razor wire. More than 5,000 troops are stationed at the border in California, Arizona, and Texas. About 3,000 will remain through the end of the month. Those troops are mostly military police, which have been used to assist the Border Patrol. About 300 people marched to the U.S.-Mexico border fence at Imperial Beach today to show solidarity with the migrant exodus in Tijuana. KPBS reporter Jean Guerrero says more than 30 people were arrested.
People came from out of state, but most of the marchers were from local religious groups. The event was led by the American Friends Service Committee.
And we won't be silent anymore.
The Council on American Islamic Relations was also there. Carlsbad resident Jamie Todgear said she was marching to try to humanize migrants.
People who migrate are merely fleeing violence and trying to survive in this world, and to try and just bring that reality close to home, because I feel like most people think that people are just trying to take advantage of the United States and they're just trying to survive.
The group walked on the sandy beach, eventually coming face to face with Border Patrol agents.
Please stop.
They sang songs and prayed.
We are not afraid.
My heart is breaking looking at those children.
Some crossed a barricade set up by Border Patrol. That's when the arrests happened. Border Patrol says 31 people were arrested for trespassing. One more was arrested for assaulting an officer. Jean Guerrero, KPBS News.
Coaster service is back up and running in Del Mar. North County Transit shut down service today due to cliff erosion. This morning, lifeguards warned of the damage. Service resumed after investigators inspected an area near 9th and 10th Streets and deemed it safe. The delay lasted a couple of hours and affected riders between Solana Beach and Sorrento Valley. Students and faculty at 2 local colleges may have been exposed to tuberculosis. The exposure period at Miracosta College was from August through November. San Diego City College had a smaller window from September to October. County health officials are working with both schools to notify and treat anyone who might be at risk. Thousands of Kaiser Permanente mental health care workers entered a 5-day strike today in San Diego and across the state. Union members say they're understaffed, and that means long wait times. KPBS health reporter Susan Murphy has the story.
Hundreds of unionized mental health care workers rallied outside of Kaiser Permanente Medical Center in Claremont Mesa.
What do we want? When do we want it?
The psychiatric nurses, addiction specialists, and social workers say they're drawing attention to Kaiser's failure to increase staffing levels to meet a growing patient load.
We need patient access, and we deserve what is rightly ours.
Mark Land Arizumi, a registered psychiatric nurse, says mental health patients can get an initial assessment within 14 days, but wait times for follow-up appointments and treatment is 6 weeks or longer. He says that puts patients at risk.
Increase in depression and the increase in anxiety, possible suicide. It really is a matter of getting them the care and continuing them so that they progressively get better.
Kaiser Permanente officials say they have hired 30% more therapists over the last 3 years. In a statement, officials said the strike is centered on money, not staffing. They added, it's particularly disheartening that union leadership would call this strike during the holiday season, when many of our patients with mental health needs may be at their most vulnerable. Mental health care and staffing has long been a contentious issue at Kaiser. In 2015, the nonprofit agreed to pay a $4 million fine levied by state regulators over inadequate access to its mental health services. Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
A new clinic near North Park will offer free testing for HIV and other sexually transmitted diseases. The clinic is operated by UC San Diego. Overall, HIV rates are down nationally, but the infection rate is rising among gay Hispanic males.
Anyone can come here and get tested, though, again, the goal is to test mostly at-risk, high-risk individuals, particularly gay and bisexual Hispanic individuals. It is in that population that we are seeing an increasing number of new diagnoses, both in San Diego and nationally.
The new clinic is located at the corner of Park Boulevard and University Avenue. A patent fight between Apple and San Diego-based Qualcomm is playing out in China. A Chinese court granted a temporary order in favor of Qualcomm that halts the sale of several iPhone models. Apple says it will challenge the ruling as the legal case plays out. Qualcomm's case is centered around a patent that deals with touchscreen technology. The Chinese ruling is not final. Apple and Qualcomm also have legal cases pending in the U.S. and Britain. The average construction worker is 45 years old, and as more retire, staff shortages are becoming a problem. Reporter Tina Martin from WGBH in Boston tells us about a program in Massachusetts that's recruiting more women to fill those jobs.
LaBelle Armstrong's always worked hard, but the work hasn't always paid off.
There's been difficult times where I had to live paycheck to paycheck.
And for a single mother, that wasn't easy.
At an early age, I did have 2 children.
So 5 years ago, with some encouragement from friends.
And they're like, girl, you can do this, you know? And I'm like, can I?
Armstrong took a leap into a world dominated by men. Construction.
I wasn't discriminated against. I was another one of the people that was on the team.
She's now a licensed sprinkler fitter. Like the name suggests, she installs sprinkler systems for fire safety and works on some of Boston's biggest construction sites.
It changes things. You know, when bills come, you pay the bills. It helps when your kids need to buy books at school.
Get into the union and you can make 6 figures or better.
It completely changes a woman's life. We tell the women, not only are you going to make raises, you're going to know when those raises come. So you can anticipate when you're going to be making enough money to buy a home.
Susan Moyer with the Policy Group on Tradeswomen's Issues has been pushing to get more women into the trades, an industry she says women have historically been kept out of.
I think we're working against more than a stigma. I think we're working against a massive social prejudice against women doing those jobs.
Several partner organizations have spearheaded the Build a Life That Works campaign to get the word out.
Iron workers, operating engineers, there are the mechanical trades, which are electricians, and the pipe trades, plumbers and pipe fitters and sprinkler fitters.
So far, Moyer says the outreach that includes monthly information sessions is working. Right now, there are more than 600 women in union construction apprenticeship programs across the state. That's 4 times what it was in 2012. But it's still far short of their goal, to have women fill 20% of union building trades jobs by 2020.
There's no physical reason, there's no emotional reason, there's no real reason why women can't do this work.
For LaBelle Armstrong, the career change has been a game changer.
You know that you're not going to be low income, but you're going to be a middle class citizen, and you're going to be able to contribute to your community, contribute to the future of your children.
Women, she says, are natural fixers. She's proud to be helping to fix things on the job and in her community.
Perfect.
Tina Martin, WGBH News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, populist upheaval in Europe, an uncertain future for Brexit as violent protests continue to roil France. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
The Camp Fire destroyed homes, business, and important revenue sources that pay for basic services. Capitol Public Radio's Chris Nichols has more on how local governments are trying to recover.
Butte County Supervisor Bill Connolly says he's grateful for the outpouring of help from across the country. But he says in the months ahead, towns like Paradise, where thousands of homes burned, will need even more help, especially in the form of tax dollars backfilled by the state.
Think about your school districts, your water districts, any infrastructure that depends on tax dollars. We're out of luck right now.
Republican Assemblyman James Gallagher, who represents the county, has proposed 2 bills to ensure local governments get state money to clean up debris and rebuild public facilities. Everything from classrooms to county snowplows burned in Paradise.
The entire town has been devastated, so there's going to be no property tax. Nobody's going to be going up there and purchasing items at stores or going out to dinner at the restaurant.
Republican State Senator Jim Nielsen, who also represents the area, said the state should use its multi-billion-dollar surplus to help the region with its long-term recovery. In Sacramento, I'm Chris Nichols.
Recent storms have helped California build a stronger snowpack. A new measurement over the weekend shows double the amount of snow in the Sierra Nevada compared to this time last year. At that time, the snowpack was about half of its average level. The Southern Sierra is doing especially well. Mammoth Mountain has recorded nearly 6 feet of snow since October, giving it the deepest snowpack in the country. Clear skies are expected in San Diego this week. Aaron Calandra has details in tonight's forecast.
Good afternoon. I hope you enjoyed your day today. We started off pretty cloudy. We had extra clouds around, but quickly breaking up for some sunshine. Notice to the north of us, a little bit of precipitation creeping into places like Los Angeles. Not here in San Diego. We are staying mainly dry. Taking a look at tonight, expect to see a cloudy night ahead of us. Borrego Springs at 45. Ramona, 39, and Oceanside coming in at 47. In the metro, cloudy, 55 degrees for the low temperature. Now, by tomorrow, those clouds long gone. We are going to see plenty of sunshine, and it's going to be getting a bit warmer each day this week. Notice this dry air coming on in from the south. Those showers, they're going to stay in northern California. Oceanside reaches 67 for the high tomorrow. San Diego also at 67 with sunny skies. Mount Laguna 51 degrees, and it's going to be nice and sunny for you. Late week, well, the Santa Ana winds, they're going to pick up light to moderate, and that's going to be midweek through Thursday. Because of that, temperatures will increase, and it will be a bit gusty at times through the canyons, the foothills, the passes, so be careful if you're traveling. This week, we expect to see plenty of sunshine. By the weekend, maybe a few clouds around. 72 on Thursday. That will be the warmest day. Inland, we're talking sunny with high clouds by the weekend. Temperatures up to 77 degrees on Thursday. And in the mountains, we'll remain in the 50s. By Saturday, we're dipping down to the upper 40s for our high temperatures. Our lows, they'll be in the 30s, so pretty chilly conditions there. And in the deserts, mostly sunny. An increase of clouds on Friday. And the weekend temperatures will be in the 60s, but the warmest day of the week here in the deserts, that will be Tuesday and Wednesday, with those temperatures topping off right around 74 degrees. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra. Back to you.
It's been more than a dozen years since San Diego County updated its voting system. As KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman tells us, county leaders are now considering new technology.
The county says the current system for administering elections is not efficient. They say it's becoming increasingly difficult to maintain old ballot scanners, and fewer computers are available with the current Windows XP operating system. Windows XP was debuted in 2001, and Microsoft no longer offers support for the system. Tomorrow, the County Board of Supervisors will vote to move $20 million for a new voting system. The county anticipates the money will be reimbursed from state and federal funds. If approved, the Registrar of Voters would enter into a competitive bidding process to find a state-approved vendor. The system upgrade would include things like computers, scanners, touchscreen units, and software, with the goal of making voting more efficient. The county hopes to have a new voting system in place for the 2020 presidential primary election. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
A new state report shows California is falling behind when it comes to artificial intelligence. An independent state oversight agency says California could miss out on more than $400 billion in revenue from investments in the technology. The agency encourages the state to develop training for state employees whose jobs might be affected by AI.
Other places like Switzerland,
who are much smaller than California, have already taken significant steps to understand the impacts of artificial intelligence. In fact, other states are far ahead of California. And it's a little embarrassing when you think of the fact that we are the home of Silicon Valley and the 5th largest economy in the world. We need to be doing better.
The report on artificial intelligence suggests the legislature create a cabinet-level position for an official who would oversee the emerging technologies. Artificial intelligence may be part of a human mission to Mars. Science reporter Dave Mosher talked with SciTech Now about what it would take to get humans to Mars and to live there.
This is totally speculative. We've never thought about living there, actually, but there are more people deciding to think about living there long term now and in the last 15 years than we've ever contemplated as a society before. What kind of challenges do we have of thinking about living there?
I think the way to phrase this question is, what challenges don't we have? Yeah. So Mars is an average of 140 million miles away from Earth. There are some windows every 2 years where we can get there pretty quickly, within 6 to 9 months, depending on how much propellant you have and how fast you want to go and how fast you can slow down, too. So that's the challenge number one. You're in deep space for months. You don't have the protection of Earth's magnetic field. So you have radiation just pummeling your body, blasting away your DNA. You can have it's not just cancer, risk of cancer. You can lose your cognitive function. Scientists are starting to think based on animal model studies. You can lose your immunity. So if there is any sort of biological attack, like your body revolts against itself, it's the bacteria in your intestines, you may not be able to fight that off very effectively. So there's all sorts of tangential effects of deep space radiation that we're just now starting to understand based on research that's going on at the International Space Station, which frankly I don't think is happening quickly enough based on some of the timelines that are being thrown out. So that's one. Two is how do you get all the supplies you need there without breaking the bank of the U.S. government or other governments? And then three is, how do you feed people there? Because stuff expires. Your vitamin C, which you're going to need to avoid space scurvy, that goes after a year or two. And that's just like scratching the surface. There's so many other challenges that are in the way.
So what are the technologies that support the idea of getting us there? I mean, there's the rocket ships, okay? Now, okay, fine. Let's say we know how to launch a rocket. We certainly have launched satellites and probes around Mars orbit and onto the surface. But what other technologies do we have to be designing in order to sustain even just life on a rocket ship for that long to get there?
Yeah, so radiation, going back to radiation, you need to protect yourself from that. You need some sort of a shield, some sort of a protection mechanism. Especially if the sun starts acting up and belching out a solar storm of protons. You don't want those hitting your body. It's actually more of the stuff they generate when they pass by you. They can accelerate electrons, and those can hit you and generate gamma rays and all sorts of stuff. It's bad news. So you need somewhere to hide in your spaceship. So that's one thing you've got to have.
Are we designing spacesuits differently? Are we thinking about what kind of life-sustaining qualities those suits have that our normal astronaut suits today might not have to have?
Yeah, so a terrestrial spacesuit is something NASA's been working on for a long time, in addition to all the other problems they're concerned about. You need to be able to move around on the planet without getting some of the stuff on you. Mars is covered in something called perchlorate, which is fine if it's in a vacuum, which is basically what Mars is. But once you bring it inside, it's nasty stuff. You don't want to eat the stuff. It's toxic. So that's one challenge. And you also need a place to live. Like, how do you live on Mars? Do you live in your spaceship? Do you live in a habitat? How do you create energy? How do you recycle your water? What do you do with your waste? How do you grow food?
Is it more likely to be done by the private sector or different governments coming together?
So this is an interesting thing that's happening right now. For many years, really up until Elon Musk said, screw it, I'm going to launch SpaceX in 2002, because he was frustrated that NASA wasn't doing anything. Like, he logged on to NASA's website. And it's like, where's the Mars mission? Like, why aren't we going? So ever since then, for the past 16 years, he has been pushing and hammering and pressing and fighting to get something that can go to Mars. He is trying to do the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. The space agencies of the world are going to be like, hey, we need to get on this train. And then behind that will come all of these technologies, the life support technologies, the radiation technologies, like everything you would need to stay there once you get there.
Now here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, protecting homes in the middle of the campfire. One couple's extraordinary measures to create a living space that could survive the flames. And on Midday Edition, the relationship between business owners and San Diego's homeless population. The new guidelines that could help with the big picture solution. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.